Good evening. Welcome to St. Paul's Church in Nantucket and Music Monday. My name is Joe Hammer, and I'm the Director of Music and Organist here at St. Paul's. And let me turn myself on here. There we go. And I need to extend thanks for your patience. The last couple of weeks, I've been a little technologically challenged, I guess you could say. And basically, apologies for the lapse, but so glad to be with you this evening. Shout out to Andrew Cromartie for his patience and tutoring of getting me up to speed with the technology here at St. Paul's, and certainly to Father Max for his patience in my lack of being able to push the right buttons. Last week I went through the entire program and discovered afterwards that it wasn't even broadcast. So anyway, that was a good warm-up for this evening's program. Because I've taken probably about 90% of the program and just applied it to this evening with some expansion. So this evening is going to be about the African-American woman composer Florence Price. And Florence, I first became acquainted with her through Steve Spinelli, who is the director of the Cornell University Chamber Singers, and was here 2 summers ago now, I guess, when the choir was here for a week's residency here at St. Paul's. Steve, is a huge advocate of Florence Price's music, and I'm really grateful to him to having introduced her to me. So I thought we'd just kind of explore a little bit of her more accessible pieces for me to play anyway. Florence, you can read about her, Google Florence Price. It's certainly worth your time. But she was from the South and was a music student at the Boston Conservatory and spent a lot of her time here in New England. The organ was one of her primary instruments, and she was the first African-American woman composer to have a symphony played, premiered by a major U.S. orchestra, and in Chicago specifically. Her organ teacher at the Boston Conservatory was a gentleman by the name of, hold on one second with me, yes. By the name of Henry Morton Dunham, D-U-N-H-A-M. And as it happens, Dunham actually was the organist for the dedication of St. Paul's back in 1902, and as again was Florence Price's organ teacher. So this is an article taken out of the newspaper at the time, and here's a little bit that talks about Dunham. The organist was Professor Dunham of Brockton, and they're talking about the dedication ceremony, and his playing during the ceremonies was most acceptable to all. While listening to the organ tones that pealed forth from the massive tower in an anthem of praise, one could not help thinking of those plaintive notes, now sad, now melancholy, that sighed through the burning tower of the first Episcopal church on Nantucket, known as Trinity Church, which was destroyed by the Great Fire of 1846. Under the tender touch of the organ keys, the lost chord of Old Trinity found its voice in the great Amen of New St. Paul's. Thus, after long years, the fond dream of good and faithful servants of hallowed Trinity, and later of Old St. Paul's, has become crystallized in stone to be a lasting memorial. And it goes on and on and on and on. And for those of you, just a little interesting side note, those of you who are familiar with St. Paul's, the church here, the current chapel was originally the choir room for the church. But enough of that. So let's get to some music. So what I'm going to do is, these are very short pieces, piano pieces that were composed by Florence Price. They're really fun, kind of cover the whole gamut of different things, but the first three I'm going to play are African American dances, and this first one is called Hoe Cake, and that's spelled H-O-E cake. So here's Hoe Cake by Florence Price. Cake. So the next little dance, this one's called Rabbit Foot. Rabbit Foot. Rabbit Foot. This third one is probably my favorite out of this set, and it's one of these days I'll do a little arrangement for the organ, actually, which would make sense because Florence Price wrote a lot of music for the organ. It was her instrument. And I think this would sound really fun on it. It's called Tinklin' Toes, which I guess also would have some organ-esque kind of attributes considering the pedal board. So anyway, Tinklin' Toes. Tinkling Toes. So, let's do something that's a little bit different. Let's kind of dial it back a little bit, I guess you could say. So, Florence Price wrote, I guess you could call it a set. It's called Thumbnail Sketches of a Life in the Day. Thumbnail Sketches of a Day in the Life of a Washerwoman. And it really kind of is very poignant to the extent that there are actually 4 movements. The first one is titled Morning, and it kind of describes, a washerwoman getting up in the early dawn and, of course, having to go into work. Very difficult. The next one is called Spinning Dreams at the Wash Tub, which I'm going to play in just a second. The third one is called A Gay Moment, which is kind of a little fast little thing. And then there's a number 4, Evening Shadows, which is, again, a little bit more melancholy. Washerwomen is a whole... it was a profound way for particularly women of color to make a living, and it was very hard. So anyway, this is called Spinning Dreams at the Wash Tub. So very short. Thumbnail Sketches, I think, is very well described because they're all, relatively short little pieces. But I thought that had a sweet kind of wistful quality about it. So Spinning Dreams at the Wash Tub, Florence Price. Now, back to something that's a little bit livelier, if you will. This is another one. So all of these pieces I'm playing this evening are very short, and she has extensive pieces, but the ones that I'm playing are short little things. This one's called The Goblin and the Mosquito, and it's very descriptive. So here we go. The Goblin and the Mosquito, Florence Price. the importance of them. So anyway, this is called Levy Dance. So Levy Dance by Florence Price. Now I'm going to move up to the organ and play a couple of pieces actually. The first one is not by Florence Price. It's by a composer about the same era as her, maybe a little bit earlier, by J. Stewart Archer. It's his arrangement of the African-American spiritual Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. And then I'll close out with a piece, an organ piece by Florence Price, which is called Andante, and it's really nice actually. So anyway, let me move up to the organ here, and I'll get this out of the way because we don't need it. So here is Swing Low, Sweet Chariot by J. Stewart Archer. Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, J. Stewart Archer. So now back to Florence Price. So this piece is called Adoration. She has a number of really good organ pieces that I, on my on my wish list for things to learn. It's a pretty extensive list, actually. But anyway, so here's adoration. Adoration by Florence Price. Certainly of a period, but nice nonetheless, certainly. So thank you for joining me in my little journey into Florence Price. Just a couple of notifications that in 2 weeks from today, Joey, the flutist who's been playing here during the Sunday services, will be joining me for Music Monday. So that would be on the 16th, I believe. And this Sunday, please come to St. Luke's, 8 o'clock service in the garden, weather permitting. 9:30 service here inside the church with music, and we'll be having 11 vocalists this Sunday, so doing some fun things. And also August the 15th, we'll be doing a jazz service. So we've got a great jazz pianist who will be joining us, and it's going to be great fun. So again, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Have a blessed evening. Good night.